Welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast, brought to you by Active Management, the world's leading fitness business coaches who in 2015 will help you #grow your business. This is the world's #1 podcast for fitness business owners and managers. We interview real owners and learn what has been working for them to make them so successful. Here's the host of the Fitness Business Podcast, Chantal.
Hey guys, happy week 3 of Podtober. I hope you've been enjoying this month's shows so far. Did you catch any of our social media campaign? I don't know how you could have missed it. It is everywhere. Now, just in case you haven't already connected with us on social media, I'm sure you have, but just in case you haven't, make sure you jump on and like our Facebook page. That's called the Fitness Business Podcast. Surprise, surprise. And on Instagram, we are just Fitness Business Podcast. And on Twitter, it's a little bit different. It's at FitBiz Podcast. Biz is with a B-I-Z, at FitBiz Podcast. There are so many options. I would love you to stay connected so you know all about the amazing guests that we've got on the way for you guys. Okay, speaking of amazing guests, I was totally blown away with the response to show 20. That was our best of show. So I'm really thrilled that you guys enjoyed it and really excited that you were keen to hear from more of our previous guests. There were so many, and as you might remember me saying, I had to kind of summarize it down to 5. So there's lots more good stuff there that I would love to showcase with you. So I've actually gone and picked out another one of our favorites, and it's a top rating guest, Fred Hoffman. So Fred joined us in show 10 and we chatted about social media and technology. So even before we start today's show, even before I tell you who the guest is today, we're going to take a quick listen back to when Fred told us about who we should follow on social media.
Yeah, Social Media Examiner is on the top of my list as well. And I also follow Mashable. Great for all kinds of information. Also, a few different people that I follow and get their newsletters. A woman called Mary Smith, it's M-A-R-I, and a woman called Kim Garst, G-A-R-S-T. They have great information. And there's different people also, Guy Kawasaki and Pete Cashmore. So I tend to follow them on social media, see what they're doing, what they're talking about. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be directly related to social media or technology, but you learn a lot from these people because they're somewhat the trendsetters and very knowledgeable. And they also have great people around them. And that's something I was going to say earlier as well about learning what's happening in the technology and social media, is to surround yourself with people that are in the know. We can't know everything, and it's great to have colleagues and friends that can turn you on to things and to educate you on things that you might not have ever heard of.
That's a great tip. Tell me, Fred, as a fitness business owner, what would be your 3 absolute must-dos when it comes to technology?
Okay, well, the first of 3, and I'm going to say it though 3 times, is learn, learn, learn. You need to be learning all the time. You can't, in this ever-changing field, you can't stay static. So you need to learn what's going on in technology, social media, and some of what we've already talked about will come into play, but to stay really abreast of all the innovations and changes that are happening. Second would be something that I mentioned just before, which is to surround yourself with staff and colleagues who are in the know, and they can help you. I mean, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm quite knowledgeable in this area, but I always know that I can learn from someone else. And sometimes we just need to step back and say, this person really can help me or give me tips. So I always say, surround yourself with great people. Sometimes they're better than you are, but that's okay, because if you work together well as a team, it will definitely benefit everyone. And a very, very important third point would be to make a strategy. And the strategy for technology and social media should really revolve around what your business is. If you have a mission statement, you want to be able to quickly say what your business is and does, and then build your strategy around that. If you're selling a product, if you're selling a service, you want the technology and social media to talk to that. Because I know a lot of times people, they get on social media and they'll say to me, well, I have a Facebook page and I have a Twitter account, but it doesn't survive on its own. You need to make it survive or breathe and live. And with a strategy, when you're clear on what you want to do with that, it's much more easy. Because I find a lot of times people flounder just because they aren't sure really how to use social media. And if I go back to the first tip of learning, I would always say to learn what you can do with those platforms before you actually get active. Open an account, sit back a little bit, see what other people are doing with those platforms, talk to some of your friends and colleagues, and then start to work with them. Because a lot of times, like I said, people just get on and they don't really know what they're doing. It's like our mobile phones or our smartphones, right? We can only use a few of the functionalities, but there's so much to know. And I'm surprised when I'll be talking to someone. I'll say, okay, well, listen here, put my number into your phone. They're like, oh, how do I do that? Like, how do you survive? But it's similar with social media where they've learned to do a couple posts or post a photo, but they don't really have a strategy. So as a resume of the three things, it would be learn, surround yourself with staff and colleagues who are in the know, and of course have a strategy for social media and technology.
I love that. Now, if you want to check out the rest of the interview with Fred Hoffman, then just head over to the Fitness Business Podcast website, look for show 10, and I promise you it is well worth listening to the full interview. Okay, let me now tell you about this week's guest. So for any of you who have ever considered launching a business, if you've ever had that huge idea, or if you wanted to turn your passion into something more, then I have a very inspiring guest for you today. Debora Warner is the president and CEO of Mile High Run Club. It's a niche fitness business that caters to runners, both new and experienced. They promote themselves as the first dedicated studio for running, and it is based in New York City. Now, Debora herself has coached hundreds of runners over the past several years. She's a RRCA Certified Running Coach, as well as an ACE Certified Group Fitness Instructor and a lifetime endurance athlete. Now, Mile High Run Club really is an example of how a passion can turn into a profitable business. And I think you're really going to enjoy the story. Some of the keys to their success is in there, and also some exciting plans that Debora has for the future of Mile High Run Club. Now, before we start that interview, don't forget you've still got a chance to win our Podtober prize. That's right, it is a copy of Robbie Kelman-Baxter's book, The Membership Economy. I'm going to be telling you about how you can enter that a little bit later on in the show. Now, we also get a visit from our podcast marketing expert, Sharon Townsley. Now, for those of you that are planning on starting, or perhaps you've already launched your own podcast, Sharon drops by to tell us why it's important to rank high in the iTunes New and Noteworthy category. It's a really interesting one. And also, later in the show, my goodness, we've got a lot in this show. Later on in the show, we hear about one of our awesome sponsors, Visual Fitness Planner, and why it is the ultimate way to improve your club's set, show, close percentages. So much to look forward to in today's show. That's it, guys. Put your runners on. It's time to start this week's show. Okay, I am here today with Debora Warner, the president and CEO of Mile High Run Club. Welcome to the show, Debora.
Hi, thank you, Chantal.
This is very exciting. I'm sitting in Sydney this morning. You're in New York City. And I think the listeners of our show will probably be familiar with Mile High Run Club because JT from Active Management, one of our regular guests, actually came and visited you not that long ago and had such a fabulous experience that when I heard about it, I thought we've got to get you on this show. So I'm really thrilled that you're here with us today. And I wanted to start off by asking you, it is such a cool business name. How did you come up with the name?
Thank you. Well, I wanted to emphasize the feel-good aspect of running rather than, the competitive side of things. So that was one reason. And then I also wanted to, it's somewhat of a nod to the elite running culture of Colorado. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of little clubs in Colorado, running groups that call themselves Mile High, after the Mile High City. And I just thought, bringing a little bit of that sort of like elite trail running culture to New York, that vibe in the name. And then also to sort of give it a sense of adventure and being outdoors. And then also, there's a cheeky, obviously everyone thinks of the airplane.
It's hard not to,
Does not go unnoticed, which is, it's just kind of funny. So I like that, the humor as well.
It's a very cool name, very cool. So tell us, when did you initially launch the business?
So I launched November 8th of 2014 last year.
Oh, wow. So we are just coming up to your first birthday.
Yeah.
Have you got something special planned?
We do. And, we haven't solidified the details.
It's a bit of a secret at this stage. We won't give it away. We won't give it away.
It's going to involve some type of big celebration.
Well, that sounds good. So listen, Debora, tell me this. When, obviously it is a real niche that you're in. When you initially launched the business 12 months ago, did you feel nervous, or were you just totally confident that you had the right idea and you were going to launch into the market with this quite niche product?
I did feel very confident. And that was one thing that, I had a very successful independent training business coaching runners. And I had done that for several years. And I had a very stable business and amazing trajectory in fitness in the industry since I started my career, changed my career about 7-8 years ago now. So just based on my experience, I felt like I really did my research on the ground with my runners. And I felt very strongly that there was a need for this.
Yeah.
And I do have pretty much the same demographic, although it's exponentially bigger now that we have the gym, as I was working with before. And, those are primarily females between the ages of 25 and about 35 who are, maybe signing up for their first race, starting to get serious about their running. And so it's a demographic that I'm very familiar with.
Yeah. So tell me this, Debora, I noticed on your website, and it's a really cool site, by the way. I like the simplicity of how everything's laid out. It's very, very straightforward, easy to understand. I noticed that you're still teaching on the timetable. You're active on the timetable. But I'm keen to talk about your instructors. I mean, from our perspective, from what I can see of your business, the success does rely heavily on the people because obviously, it's built around that class format.
Yeah, the quality, the creativity and excellence of the coaches, they are consistently delivering a very high quality class, and it's really fun. And, I think the warmth and the generosity and, it's a really fantastic coaching staff that I have, and I attribute much of our success to the coaches.
And tell me this, other than the fact that I'm going to assume that they enjoy running themselves, what other sort of attributes do you look for in those people that are part of your business?
Well, I do look for, a combination of things, and it's really tough, like finding the right relationship or the right apartment, or, it's always hard to find like all of these qualities in one person.
Yeah.
So there are usually, one or two strengths, and then, we work on the weaknesses together. So I look for one, passion for running and some credentials such as an RRCA certification or another adult distance running certification. That happens to be one of the better ones and only ones. There are a few. And then also, some type of race history or collegiate track background. That's really important because we also do outdoor runs at the track. And athletes are, having trained on such a high level, come in with a higher level of knowledge. And sometimes I'll forgive the certification if they do have that collegiate experience.
Yeah.
And then some type of group fitness instructor, GFI, certification like ACE is great. I don't know if you're familiar with ACE where you are, American Council of Exercise. They have a great group fitness certification, which is helpful. So some experience, leading groups, and then also, charisma, great taste in music, obviously being in shape, being a runner. Those are all great qualities. And, and I really want people who are really generous with their willingness to share their knowledge and really want to give their customers a great experience.
Well, it sounds like you nailed it with your hiring policy, because when JT described his experience at Mile High Run Club, he was saying that the instructor that he had was just like this absolute energizer kind of bunny, just went nuts, and that made the experience what it was. So, so that's a good attribute.
That's great.
Because these instructors are such a big part of your team, do you tend to encourage them to build, say, their own personal brand when it comes to social media, or do you more focus on the brand of the club, of Mile High Run Club?
Well, since we hired full-time marketing, we've been able to feature them more frequently, and both on social channels as well as our email blasts. So we're getting the coaches' names out that way. But I do see it as a brand partnership where they're their own brand, and we both benefit from the affiliation and the partnership. And I see no reason, I don't see it as a threat that they build their brand outside of Mile High simultaneously. Some of them are more active than others on social. They just happen to be more savvy or more interested in promoting themselves that way. And they do often mention Mile High, although I don't make it a requirement. It's much appreciated, and they know that it's appreciated when they do. But there's no sort of formal policy or sort of, posting schedule as far as that goes. But they do. One of my coaches does have her own PR person, and she does mention Mile High frequently, and when she's in the magazines and stuff.
Yeah,
she was on Good Morning America recently, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Was that in association with Mile High?
Yeah, well, it was a segment on a fitness myth that they wanted to demonstrate. So we provided the treadmill and the runner. And she wore our shirt, and they said, "This is Andia Winslow from Mile High Run Club."
Cool.
So it was more of a mention.
Nonetheless, it's branding. That's great. So You mentioned earlier that in addition to the indoor classes, you've also got an outdoor running group. Do you tend to attract a lot of outdoor runners? Tell us about who you're attracting to the classes.
What I love about our customers is that they range anywhere from non-runners, people who really, they come up to us and confess after class, "I don't run, I'm not a runner," but and they end up loving the class usually and coming back and starting to develop a relationship to the sport. And maybe they only run here in class and that's it. They're just group fitness, like they're studio hoppers, I call them.
Junkies.
But we also have very competitive athletes who train here, who place regularly in the local races. I actually have one guy who emails me prior to class. He wants to always get the program prior to class so he can plan it, because he does 100-mile weeks.
Oh,
and this is part of his
incredible.
Planning. Yeah, so we have really broad range, and often, a lot of these runners are in the same class running next to each other, which is so great.
That's really cool. So let's talk a little bit about how you're actually attracting people to the business, because I assume that there's a degree of it that would be referral and word of mouth. What would you identify as being your number one lead source?
Definitely word of mouth. I think that is the most powerful, and I think it has been the most effective at bringing people in the door. Obviously, well-placed articles, the PR, our PR efforts have driven traffic to our website, definitely pre-launch. There were a couple well-placed articles like on Well and Good, and that drove a lot of traffic to our website. So we did start developing a list that way, but I think it's a combination of the daily marketing efforts, PR, sort of more big picture, and then the word of mouth being the leading factor.
When you say the daily PR efforts, do you mean activity that you've got on social media and your blogs?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. And we just launched a magazine, actually. Our email blast is going out tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
With the first couple of articles in our magazine, which is on our website.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we might grab a copy of that link, if that's all right, and put it in the show notes.
Oh, sure.
To share with everyone. That would be really cool, so everyone can check it out. Hey guys, okay, through the magic of podcasts, I just happened to have the very first issue of the Mile High Run Club magazine ready for you to check out. You can find it in this week's show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. All you need to do is click on show 23. Okay, that's it. Let's dive back into the show where I've just asked Debora who looks after their email marketing.
We hired a full-time marketing manager in June. Mm-hmm. She's amazing, and she's worked in both PR and marketing, and she is also a former D1 track star, Division 1. So she has a running background. Her mother was a running coach. So she understands the sport. And then we hired a consultant in August, an outside consultant who also was very much an expert on email marketing. So she was very helpful and gave us some tools we needed to sort of learn how to track the analytics. So that's pretty much it. So Erin does the day-to-day, and then we also hired a consultant for the month of August.
That's really interesting. So I'm going to take a step back. When you initially launched the business 12 months ago, other than having your instructors, did you, as the business owner and the founder, did you have anyone else helping you in those first couple of months, or were you pretty much a one-man band to get started with?
Oh, no. No way I could have done this entire thing.
Tell us about who was your support team. So what type of people helped you get everything up and running?
Okay, so it's a support team that consists of 4 friends, people who I've kind of found me through my network. And one is actually owns a marketing agency. So he oversees marketing. And then everyone else is sort of more on the business end of things. So CFO and more sort of, fundraising. And then the other partner kind of manages the real estate, the build out. So I have an arm for almost every aspect of the business. You do want to always, surround yourself with people who can sort of make up for your weaknesses. And I think it's also super important. And this is advice that was given to me by another gym owner when I was thinking about this idea. He said, never partner with another fitness person. You don't need 2 fitness people. He said, need someone who brings a different skill, totally separate skill set to the table, such as, legal. So an attorney or, because that's obviously a big part of any business is drafting contracts and creating operating agreements, all those things that can be sort of traded for equity. So people with really hard skills, people who have, accounting experience or, that business background, marketing background is super important. So yeah, so that's my advice. Don't partner with another person who has the same skill set as you do.
Okay, a couple more quick things. I've taken up a lot of your time already, but so I believe that you use the Woodway treadmills. Mm-hmm. And yes. Tell us what motivated you to choose that particular type?
Oh, well, I love the Woodway, and I think I've said I probably wouldn't do this gym without that treadmill. Mm-hmm. It's really superior, in my opinion. There's no comparison to any other treadmill on the market. It is so different. I don't know if you've ever run on it, but it really mimics the feeling of running on a trail. Mm-hmm. And they have this slatted belt technology that belongs to Woodway. It's patented by Woodway. And they claim that it's easier on the joints. I mean, it really feels like a tank. I mean, it's very stable. And I think it's the treadmill of choice for most elite athletes if they are training on a treadmill.
Cool. So let's talk about the next 12 months. So you're about to come up to the first birthday, and that's really exciting. Mm-hmm. What do the next 12 months look like for Mile High Run Club? Do you see any kind of really exciting things that you can tell us about? Anything you can preview to us?
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, we're going to be launching a second location.
Oh, that's huge news. How exciting.
Yeah, in New York. Yeah, so that's huge.
Wow.
It's looking like with the current timeline, January now.
Yep.
And then I'm completely rebranding the outdoor program. So I've been wanting to turn it into more of like a program with one group of runners assigned to one coach. So everyone's actually following a program and they're training with people who have similar skill level, So we would not be doing as many drop-in classes. Currently, we just have kind of drop-in. And, we've had a lot of success with advanced track night with one of my coaches, because it's the same coach and it's the same group of runners, and she's tracking their progress. So I think that's what I want to get the outdoor program a better, get a more purposeful, more focused race training. And then I would also like to introduce customized training plans for our marathoners, for our serious runners who are willing to spend the money on a customized plan. And yeah, that's about it.
That's really exciting.
To do great coaches.
Always important, always important. You mentioned just before that one of the coaches tracks the progress of her particular group that she goes out with. Do you guys use any type of wearable technology?
Not at the moment. And, it's something that I've been on the fence about because, I do think that there are a lot of options for people, and, these technology tends to become outdated, I think, pretty frequently. I think the new technology there's always something better. So I feel like the obsolescence of the current options is imminent. So I want to be careful about introducing anything and make sure it's not just a fad or a trend, and there's a reason for it. So, and then I do think that, coming up with something proprietary, for example, would be a good goal. However, I think that it's possible that some of these wrist options that are coming onto the market might be just as effective as anything that we could develop for our customers. Because I just think the tracking technology is getting better and better and more precise. And the amount of equipment needed to track is also becoming less of an issue, because I think a lot of these wrist pieces, for example, are doing, what heart rate monitor, all of the straps, like all that stuff is not necessary anymore.
Well, maybe keep us up to date. I'm interested to hear, if you do eventually go down that path. It'll be interesting to know. Debora, look, I want to say thank you so much for your time today. It's really exciting to hear about a second club opening. I love that. And I definitely will be visiting you next time I'm in New York City. So we'll be putting Absolutely. We'll make sure that we put all of your contact details and the details for Mile High Run Club in today's show notes. And we'll also grab a copy of that magazine. We'd love to share that with our listeners as well. So we'll put a copy of that link in there as well. And make sure you let us know. Send us the press release when the new club opens. We'd love to hear all about it.
Okay, great.
Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for your time today, Debora.
The Fitness Business Podcast is very appreciative of our podcast partners. Here's a quick word from one of our partners.
As you know, our goal at the Fitness Business Podcast is to help you grow your fitness business. So I love it when I can tell you about new products, programs, and solutions to help you do just that. Our show would not be possible without the support of our sponsors. And one of those awesome sponsors is Visual Fitness Planner. But before I tell you more about them, let me ask you these questions. What is your membership closing percentages? What percentage of your members at the point of sale sign up for a complimentary orientation session? What percentage of your new members actually show up for their complimentary orientation session? And most importantly, what percentage of your membership buys personal training? These are the numbers that you have to be asking yourself and measuring every single day. As the old saying goes, if you're not measuring your numbers, you're not managing your numbers. A club's set show close numbers are significantly improved because of the Visual Fitness Planner. The VFP provides a turnkey system for marketing, capturing, and integrating new members into a healthy lifestyle change. The VFP automates your existing sales, marketing, and orientation systems with the power of its visually impacting technology. VFP calculates a person's health risks for diseases. It predicts their health age. It creates a before and after 3D image of their body and calculates how long it will take to achieve their goals. And in this process, increases your membership and personal training sales and overall member retention. To check out more about the VFP, head over to their website at myvfp.com.au. And of course, a copy of that website link is in today's show notes. Hey guys, as promised at the start of the show, to celebrate Podtober, we are giving away a copy of The Membership Economy, written by our previous guest, Robbie Kelman-Baxter. That was back in show 21. Now, for your chance to win the book, simply subscribe to the show notes anytime in October. By the way, this is your last chance to subscribe. Okay, so make sure you get over there to go in the draw. Just head over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. On the right-hand side of the homepage is a space that says subscribe to show notes. Pretty amazing, right? All you need to do is leave your name and address, and guess what? You're in the draw automatically. Don't miss out. I promise you, this is a book that you want to read. Sharon Townsley is our resident podcast expert, and she owns a company called Podcast Prowess. Now, Sharon helped us get the Fitness Business Podcast going, and since then, she has become an incredible part of our team. Welcome back, Sharon. Welcome back to the podcast. Now, last time that you joined us, you shared with us what was involved in a well-planned launch. And this month, you said that you'd explain why you believe a good rank in iTunes' new and noteworthy category is so important and what it is that we need to do to get there.
Hi, Chantel. Thanks so much for inviting me back on the show today. And I have to say congratulations on your recent celebration of your first 20 shows. That's a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just curious, has active management found the podcast is helping build like your authority and credibility in the industry? I'm just curious what you found, and as a result of all your hard work and the great content you guys share with the world every single week.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. We were pretty excited to get to our first 20 shows. And as you would have seen, we did a best of show, which was one of my favorites as well, looking back on everything that we have done so far. And you know what? With what the Fitness Business Podcast has really allowed us to do is reach a worldwide audience. You know, in fact, we've had heaps and heaps of people downloading from the US, which is really cool considering we're based here in Australia. And it's also given us the opportunity to connect with some really big names in the fitness industry, people that are leaders in their field, they're leaders in their companies. And really, as a result, each time one of those influencers appear on the show, then they go and share the show with their network and we get even more people listening. So that's been really, really exciting. And I'd have to say one of the first big moments in those first 20 shows was when we were listed on the iTunes new and noteworthy category. That was definitely a high five moment for our team.
Right. New and noteworthy is awesome. And I think I mentioned on the last podcast, there's a little debate about how important ranking in iTunes can be, but I'm basing my opinion on the experiences of all my clients and on common sense, really. In case your listeners aren't familiar with new and noteworthy, when you go to the podcast category in the iTunes store, the first two rows that come up are new and noteworthy podcasts. And as you can imagine, that's extremely valuable real estate. Millions of listeners go to iTunes every day looking for content that fits their interests and passions. So to appear in the first few rows that draw millions of eyes is really invaluable. Listeners who show up see your podcast there right away and are likely to take a listen and subscribe if they like what they hear. This, of course, causes your number of downloads to go up and likewise your iTunes ranking.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that. How do we go about getting a podcast featured in new and noteworthy category?
Well, some say it's a little like Google's algorithms. It's a mystery and no one knows for sure. But honestly, I think most experts agree it's based on four main things. You have to, first of all, have a podcast that's been released within the last 8 weeks. Second, you have to have a large enough subscriber base. Third, you have a substantial amount of downloads. And fourth, you have a growing number of 5-star ratings and reviews. And what it boils down to is to make sure you have great-looking cover art, high-quality content, release new content on a consistent basis, and you have new reviews and ratings being posted to your show.
Okay, cool. So I guess that is the subscribe, rate, and review mantra that you and I both keep repeating.
Over and over, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anytime you have an opportunity to ask someone to subscribe, rate, and review your show, do it. People are usually very grateful for the high-quality free content and are willing to take a little time to go rate and review your show. And if a fan contacts you, for example, and thanks you for the show or an episode, thank them for listening and then ask for a rating or a review. And if you have an interview style format like you guys do, be sure to leverage your guest fame and following by asking them for a rating and review. Let them know how much a positive comment from them would mean to the future of your show. And most podcasts have typically less than 10 reviews, so by putting a little effort into just asking, it won't be long before you climb up in the ranks. And thus, the higher you are in the rankings and the more listens and downloads you receive, it's a wonderful circle and it begins to feed off itself. Then, as your downloads increase, you can start to really focus on monetizing the show. And with that said, let me pause to add a quick plug for the Fitness Business Podcast and ask the people who are listening today, please go to iTunes and subscribe to the Fitness Business Podcast and give us a 5-star rating and review.
Yes, I second that. Please go. Please do that. Okay, so this whole idea of monetizing the show, let's talk a bit about that, because I know that a lot of people have a podcast just because they want to build authority or credibility in their industry or talk about their passion. But for those who start to see some serious download numbers, they can also begin to think about making a little money from the show. Is that correct?
Exactly. And there are ways to make money in the beginning, too, even before you hit it big. Many people are happy to break even with the cost since they get so much intrinsic value from having a show. But once you have built a larger audience, you can begin to branch out with income streams. Most people think of monetizing as advertising sponsorships, and although that is one way, it's not the only way.
Well, I am very intrigued. Next month, Sharon's going to give us a few examples of how you can monetize your podcast. Now, as mentioned at the top of the segment, Sharon owns a company called Podcast Prowess, where she consults with and manages podcasts and internet radio shows. And let me tell you, she's very, very good at it. And if you'd like to find out more about her business, you can just head over to podcastprowess.com. Thanks for joining us again today, Sharon.
Thanks for having me, Chantel.
We'll see you next month.
It's time for the Fitness Business Podcast Wrap.
Far out, what a jam-packed show it has been today. I love that snippet from Fred Hoffman earlier on, and how great was it hearing about Mile High Run Club. And guys, don't forget to jump on and check out their magazine. As I said, it's in the show notes for today. Here are a few of the great takeaways that Debora Warner talked about. She reminded us that having a dedicated marketing person for your business enables you to really ramp up your social media presence and get really active and get some exposure on social media. She also reminded us that launching a new business requires a support team. Don't we know it? People that can do the things that you can't. And if you're the fitness person, try not to partner with another fitness person. Make sure that you're actually working with people that bring a different skill set to your business. Okay, guys, so you will not believe this one. I'm going to tell you about next week's show. And in all honesty, I was a little bit starstruck doing this interview. I chatted to Mike Michalowicz. He's the author of Profit First, The Pumpkin Plan, and The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. Now, if you love your business, and I'm sure you do, and if you want to ensure that you know everything you need to know about the numbers in your business, then you need to listen to this interview. We specifically talk about his book, Profit First, and he gives us advice that I promise you can implement into your business straight away. I promise, okay? That one comes out next week. It is show 24, and the special guest is Mike Michalowicz. That's it, guys. Thank you for joining me for yet another week of the show. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.
You have been listening to the world's #1 podcast called the Fitness Business Podcast, brought to you by Active Management. We are dedicated to helping your fitness business #grow in 2015. Check out www.activemgmt.com.au for resources, tools, and more to help you. And by far, the best value for you is to become a member. So join today at www.activemgmt.com.au.